On my 27th birthday, the air felt rich, almost glittering, as if the room itself smelled of cash. Crystal glasses chimed, perfume hung too heavy, laughter bounced around that didn't feel mine. My grandfather lifted his champagne, his smile easy but sharp. "So, how are you spending your $3,420,000 trust fund, Emma?" The world shifted sideways. I blinked once, then again. What trust fund? Every sound in the restaurant froze midair, the faint clink of silverware, a laugh caught in someone's throat. My mother's hand stopped halfway to her glass. My father swallowed hard, his jaw tight. Grandpa's calm didn't waver. Where did the money go? His question sliced through the chatter, and the silence that followed felt endless. Under chandeliers and strained smiles, I realized this dinner wasn't about celebration. It was an ambush. My name is Emma Cole, and until that night, I thought I understood my family. I grew up believing silence meant success, keep the peace, smile at the table, never bring up money. After college, I left their perfect world behind and started over in Seattle. I lived in a small apartment in Capitol Hill, peeling paint, humming pipes, but it was mine. Nights, I'd sit by the window sketching logo ideas, city lights spilling across the desk, a mug of cold coffee beside overdue bills. My parents lived 20 minutes away, in a 4-bedroom house north of the city, pool, matching Teslas, everything polished. Our conversation stayed shallow, predictable. Calls opened with "how's work," and ended before I could tell the truth. The last surprise they'd given me was at graduation. I'd walked the stage holding $72,000 in student loans and a diploma earned on no one's dime but mine. They hugged me, smiled for photos, and handed me a wrapped box. Inside was a book, Financial Literacy for Young Adults. I smiled anyway, because that's what good daughters do. Later, I cried over the sink, realizing their pride came without help. Still, I kept going, paid rent, skipped dinners, took every freelance gig I could find. When friends posted beach photos, I'd laugh it off. Someday, I'd tell myself. Someday I'll make enough to breathe. A week before my birthday, my boss called me into his glass office. His face said everything before he did. "I'm sorry, Emma. We're downsizing." I boxed up my things, took the bus home, and sank onto the couch next to Zoe, my roommate and anchor for 2 solid years. "Your parents will help, right?" she asked. I let out a hollow laugh. "They'll probably send me a budgeting app." Still, that night I called anyway. "Mom, I lost my job." "Oh, that's too bad, honey," she said, typing in the background. "But you'll figure it out. You always do." "I'm behind on rent," I tried. "Maybe this will teach you to save better," she replied, before casually adding, "Anyway, we booked your birthday dinner, Atelier Cren, 7:30. Don't be late. That place is $300 a plate," I whispered. "Don't be cheap, Emma," she laughed. "It's your birthday. Dress nicely." Then the line went dead. I stared at my reflection in the dark TV screen, tired eyes, split ends, lipstick fading. $300 a plate. That was half my grocery budget. Zoe looked up from her laptop. "You don't have to go." "Yeah, I do," I muttered. In my family, skipping dinner was practically sacrilege. I circled the date on the calendar like someone marking their own execution day. The week dragged toward it like a slow leak. I kept busy sending resumes, updating my portfolio, but rejection emails piled up faster than I could open them. My savings slipped under 4 digits. Every hallway noise made me flinch, half expecting the landlord's knock. By Friday, I'd stopped sleeping. Zoe found me at 2 in the morning, hunched over my laptop. "EMS, go to bed." "I can't. If I stop, I'll think about it." "About what?" "That dinner. Them pretending everything's perfect while I'm falling apart." She squeezed my shoulder. "Then make it the last time they treat you like that." I didn't yet understand what she meant, but her words stuck. Saturday came sharp and cold. I stood in front of my closet, staring at 3 miserable choices: faded jeans, a blazer missing a button, and a black dress I'd bought 3 years ago for an interview. I chose the dress. It mostly fit. On the bus ride downtown, I watched people through the window, tourists laughing, couples holding hands, a kid chasing melting ice cream down his arm. I envied their easy lives. Atelier Cren glowed gold and glass. My parents were already seated when I arrived, mother in a red silk dress, father crisp in navy. The table shimmered with cutlery I couldn't name. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." My mother air-kissed me, her perfume burned my eyes. "You look tired," my father said. "Rough week?" Lost my job, I murmured. He nodded like I'd mentioned rain. It happens. You'll bounce back. Then came the usual talk, Europe trips, Tesla autopilot, bathroom renovations. My words dissolved into background noise. I kept glancing toward the door, counting minutes, feeling more like a prop than a guest of honor. Then the door opened. A stir swept the room as my grandfather walked in, silver-haired, tall, steady. Even the maitre d' stumbled trying to greet him. My mother's smile faltered. "Dad, what are you doing here?" she asked, voice a pitch too high. "Celebrating my granddaughter," he said, his eyes finding mine. "Happy birthday, Emma." He hugged me, warm and real, and for a second I could breathe. "Didn't know you were coming. Wouldn't miss it," he said, settling beside me and ordering a whiskey neat. His voice was polite but edged, like he already knew something the rest of us didn't. He raised his glass, the amber catching light, and smiled. "So, Emma," he said casually, "how have you been spending your $3,420,000 trust fund?" The air shattered. My pulse roared in my ears. "What trust fund?" I whispered. Every fork froze midair. My mother's smile cracked like porcelain. My father went pale. Grandpa leaned back, unbothered. "The trust one set up when you were born. You were meant to receive it at 25. My mother laughed too quickly. "Dad, you must be mistaken." His tone sharpened. "I'm not." And in that moment, beneath the glow of chandeliers and moneyed silence, I realized this wasn't a birthday dinner at all. It was the beginning of the end. I grew up in a house where silence was measured in achievements. Every smile at the dinner table felt calculated, every question carefully weighed. My mother's hands hovered over her glass as if to remind me to stay small, and my father's nods carried the weight of unspoken expectations. Money was never talked about, not directly, but it was everywhere, hovering in the air like an invisible tally, dictating what was allowed and what wasn't. I learned early that success meant quiet compliance, earn what you could alone, never ask for help, and always keep your voice soft. After college, I moved to Seattle, leaving behind polished floors and luxury cars for peeling paint and buzzing pipes. My apartment in Capitol Hill wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Nights were spent sketching logos, the hum of the city seeping through the windows, coffee long gone cold beside overdue bills. Every line on my drawings, every font I adjusted, was a small act of claiming my own space, my own life. Zoe, my roommate, had been my anchor for 2 years, her presence steady in a world that never stopped reminding me how precarious it could be. Losing my job only amplified that uncertainty. My boss's regretful words had barely faded before I was packing up my desk, wondering how I'd scrape together the next month's rent. My parents, just 20 minutes north, lived lives that seemed to orbit around wealth rather than me. For bedrooms, pool, matching Teslas, trips that I only heard about in passing. Calls opened politely, "How's work?" and ended before the real answers could surface. When I graduated, carrying $72,000 in student loans like a badge of survival, they surprised me with a hug and a box. Inside, a book on financial literacy. Their pride was performative, their help invisible. That night, I cried quietly over the sink, realizing the truth. I had to navigate life on my own. So I did. I paid rent, skipped dinners, took every freelance project, laughed off vacations posted by friends online. Someday, I promised myself, someday I would have the space to breathe. The week leading up to my birthday was a grind against the clock. I tried to stay busy, sending out resumes, updating my portfolio, yet the rejections piled up faster than I could process. My savings were dipping under 4 digits, and every hallway sound had me flinching, half expecting the landlord's knock. By Friday, sleep was a stranger. Zoe found me at 2 in the morning, hunched over my laptop. "Emma, go to bed," she said softly. "I can't. If I stop, I'll think about it." "About what?" she asked. I couldn't even say the words. About the pretense of my family's perfection, the looming birthday dinner, the fear that everything would come crashing down around me. She squeezed my shoulder. "Make it the last time they treat you like that." Those words stayed with me, even when I didn't fully understand them. Saturday morning, I faced my closet with the same 3 choices I'd been staring at for years: faded jeans, a blazer missing a button, and a black dress purchased years ago for an interview I barely remembered. The dress mostly fit, and I chose it. On the bus downtown, I watched people through the glass, tourists laughing, couples holding hands, kids chasing ice cream drips down sticky arms. Their ease felt like a different world, one I had glimpsed only in photographs. Arriving at Atelier Cren, glass and gold shimmering under the city lights, my parents were already seated, mother in red silk, father in crisp navy. The table sparkled with cutlery I couldn't name. My mother air-kissed me. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." Her perfume stung my eyes. "You look tired," my father observed. "Rough week?" "Lost my job," I murmured. He nodded as if I'd mentioned the weather. They launched into stories about Europe, Tesla autopilot features, and bathroom renovations while my words dissolved into the background. I counted minutes until the door opened, until the room shifted, until my grandfather stepped inside, silver-haired, tall, and deliberate. The maitre d' nearly stumbled in his excitement to greet him. My mother's smile faltered. "Dad, what are you doing here?" she asked, voice sharp. "Celebrating my granddaughter," he said, eyes locking with mine. "Happy birthday, Emma." He hugged me, firm and real. For the first time that night, I could breathe. "Didn't know you were coming. Wouldn't miss it," he said, settling next to me, ordering whiskey neat. There was an edge to his politeness, a quiet certainty that he already knew something the rest of us did not. He raised his glass, amber catching the light. "So, Emma," he said casually, "how are you spending your $3,420,000 trust fund?" The question landed like a hammer. My pulse exploded in my ears. What trust fund? Every fork, every laugh, every sip froze midair. My mother's smile cracked. My father's face slackened. Grandpa leaned back, unshaken, and the world tilted around me. That dinner, I realized, was no celebration. It was the beginning of everything changing. The restaurant glittered with polished glass and gold accents, a world away from my tiny apartment. I slid into the chair, heart hammering, mother's perfume sharp in my nose, father already scanning the menu like nothing had happened this week. The table gleamed with silverware I didn't recognize, crystal glasses reflecting the warm light. For a moment, I tried to inhale the beauty of it, to let the luxury distract me from the gnawing anxiety in my chest. But I couldn't. I was here for a reason I had not yet fully named, and it waited behind the door. My grandfather entered without fanfare, though every step seemed measured to command attention. The maitre d' nearly tripped over himself trying to usher him in. Mother's smile faltered, father's jaw tensed. "Dad, what are you doing here?" she asked, voice too high. "Celebrating my granddaughter," he said, eyes immediately finding mine. "Happy birthday, Emma." His hug was solid, warm, the first moment of real comfort all night. "I didn't know you were coming," I said. "Wouldn't miss it," he replied, taking the seat beside me and ordering whiskey neat. There was a subtle tension in his politeness, a thread of knowledge that the rest of us lacked. Then the glass caught the light as he raised it, amber swirling. "So, Emma," he said casually, "how have you been spending your $3,420,000 trust fund?" The words shattered the air. My pulse thudded in my ears, and my eyes darted from mother to father. Forks hovered midair, conversation froze. Mother's smile cracked, father went pale, and grandpa leaned back, unshaken, as if nothing had changed. "The trust one set up when you were born. Your parents were supposed to transfer it when you turned 25, he said. Mother laughed, too quick and too high. "Dad, you must be mistaken." "There was no mistake," he replied quietly. "Now, private room, please." Within minutes, we were ushered away, half-eaten plates and glasses left behind. The door clicked softly, closing the outside world away, leaving only the cold, tense air of what was to come. Inside, his assistant was already waiting. Tablet in hand, she gestured to a man standing nearby in a sharp suit, Michael Anderson, attorney. "This won't take long," Grandpa said. "I just want clarity." Michael slid a folder across the table. "Miss Hart, this is the trust account created under your name. Initial deposit $1 million. Current value, based on market growth, should be roughly $3,420,000. As of this morning, the balance is $200,000. The words hit me like a punch. 25 years of planning vanished. I stared at my parents, demanding explanation without words. Father swallowed hard, wiping sweat from his brow. We used some of it to cover the mortgage when the market crashed." Grandpa's calm voice cut sharply. "That's over $3 million, James. Explain." Mother's hands trembled around her clutch. "We were trying to manage it for her future. We didn't want her to waste it." I laughed, short and bitter. "Waste it? On rent, student loans, food?" My voice broke, charged with years of suppressed frustration. Grandpa raised a hand, silencing everything. Michelle began listing the withdrawals: mortgage payoff $452,000, 2 Tesla Model S purchases $282,000, home renovation $325,000. My fingers trembled as each line registered, each figure another blow. Then, quietly, she added, investment in my mother's real estate $502,000, total loss. And finally, purchase of Malibu property, $1,815,000, registered under my parents. A beach house. My father's face slackened. It was an investment, he muttered. Grandpa's voice remained calm, almost chilling. It was theft, from your own daughter. The hum of the vent was the only sound that dared to fill the space. Finally, Grandpa leaned back. Give me the keys. Mother's hand shot to her purse, hesitation obvious, then she pulled out a small key ring, 2 keys, and a fob, trembling as she placed them on the table. Grandpa slid them to me. 2 years late, they were still warm in my hand, the keys to my life that had been withheld. Mother's soft, rehearsed sobs filled the room. Please, Dad, don't do this. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family. You'll hear from my lawyers tomorrow, he said. They left slowly, the weight of gravity seeming doubled, the door closing behind them. Grandpa turned to me. Emma, a full audit will be completed. Legal consequences are possible, but the decision to press charges is yours. I held the keys, metal cold, heavy with truth. I whispered, I need time. Take it, he said. But no, they were planning to run. Tickets to Costa Rica, bought 3 days ago. They came prepared to vanish. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension bleed from my shoulders. That night, I left the restaurant with the keys in my pocket and a storm in my chest, the city lights of Seattle blurring through the fog outside. Madison was waiting at home, eyes wide when I told her everything. They stole from you, she whispered. Not just money, your own parents, I said, years of it. I stared out the window at the quiet city below, something breaking and something beginning inside me. I wouldn't scream or beg. I would take everything back, quietly, completely, legally. The air in the private room was colder, taut with anticipation. The folder sat open between us, every page a revelation. I read each line, the numbers biting like ice: mortgage payoff, $452,000, 2 Tesla Model S purchases, $282,000, home renovation, $325,000, investment in my mother's real estate, $502,000, gone. And then, the Malibu property, $1,815,000, registered under my parents. Every sum a betrayal, every transaction a mark of what had been taken from me. I looked up at my parents. Mother's lips trembled, father's jaw clenched. They could say nothing. The silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the air vent. Grandpa's eyes were steady, his calm authority pressing down like gravity. Give me the keys, he said. Mother hesitated, her hand reaching for her purse. Finally, she pulled out a small key ring, 2 keys, and a fob. They shook as she set them on the table. Grandpa slid them across to me. 2 years late, yet finally in my hands, the keys to my apartment, my life, what had been withheld. Mother's practiced sobs filled the room. Please, Dad, don't do this. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family. Grandpa's voice was firm, unyielding. You'll hear from my lawyers tomorrow. Slowly, they left, each step weighted, the door clicking shut behind them. The silence that followed was not heavy, it was clean, charged with resolution. Grandpa turned to me. Emma, a full forensic audit will be conducted. They will face legal consequences, but the choice to press charges rests with you. I stared at the keys, the metal cold but grounding. Years of withheld approval, trust, and resources, now tangible. I need time, I whispered. Take it, he said. But no, they were planning to run. My chest tightened at the thought. Costa Rica, 3 days ago, tickets already purchased. They came to dinner aware it would be goodbye. We sat in quiet after their departure. The only sound was the faint whir of the air conditioning. Grandpa's voice finally broke the silence. These documents, the audit, everything will be followed through. Restitution, legal action, everything. I nodded, the weight of it all pressing down, yet a strange clarity settling in. The realization that for the first time, I had control, choice, and evidence of the truth. Holding the keys, I understood what had been taken and what I could reclaim. The city outside the window continued on, oblivious to the fracture of a family and the reclaiming of a life. Grandpa's hand on my shoulder was firm, steady, grounding. You did the right thing, he said softly. I swallowed, nodding, letting the moment sink in. Justice, rare and uncomfortable, had begun its quiet course. Finally, I was alone with the facts, the keys, and the certainty that nothing could be taken from me again. The room, the documents, the cold metal in my hand, they were proof that I had endured, and now, that I could rebuild. The trust, the money, and the rights that had been denied were mine once more, and with them, the foundation to reclaim my life fully. The glass tower loomed above downtown like a shard in the sky as I rode the elevator up, heart tightening with every floor. Michelle was waiting in the lobby, immaculate as always, tablet in hand. They're here, she said softly. Robert wants you present. My stomach nodded. Both of them, she confirmed with a nod. My parents had come to negotiate. Negotiate. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. The elevator doors opened onto the top floor. Glass walls stretched from floor to ceiling, leather chairs, and the faint scent of cedar filled the space. Grandpa sat behind his desk, posture perfect, hands clasped. Across from him were my parents. Father looked worn, his carefully constructed calm fraying at the edges. Mother tried to smile, but the gloss on her lips cracked. Voice steady. Sit, Grandpa said, and I obeyed, sinking into the chair opposite them. Silence pressed down, broken only by the ticking of an antique clock on the wall. Finally, Father cleared his throat. We didn't mean for it to go this far. We were desperate. Grandpa's gaze did not waver. Trying to stay afloat, Father continued, you wouldn't understand. Grandpa interrupted, sharp. I understand greed. I built an empire recognizing it. Mother reached forward, eyes brimming with tears. We love her, Dad. We were going to tell her eventually, after selling the Malibu property. Silence fell heavy. Michael Anderson, the attorney, stepped forward, sliding a stack of printed bank statements across the desk. The forensic audit is complete, he said. Every transaction traced, every property connected. Approximately $2 million has been recovered through asset seizures and forced sales. Father rubbed his temples. $2 million? You didn't recover it, Michael cut in, sharp. We did, through the law. I felt detached, observing every subtle twitch, every lie unravel as evidence was laid bare. Michelle handed me a folder. Inside were photographs of my parents' purchases, the Malibu property, luxury cars, jewelry receipts, cruise bookings, all funded by my trust. You should know what they valued more than you, she said softly. My throat tightened. This is enough to press criminal charges, isn't it? I asked. Michael's reply was steady. Felony financial fraud and breach of fiduciary duty, up to 10 years. Mother gasped. Emma, you wouldn't, please. Her voice trembled, fractured like porcelain. I didn't flinch. You did this, I said quietly. Father leaned forward, desperation bleeding through his carefully maintained calm. We made mistakes, but prison. We're your parents. I looked at them, my voice firm. Parents protect. They don't pillage. Grandpa turned to me. It's your choice, sweetheart. Around me, the skyline glimmered through glass, the paper scattered across the desk, the hands trembling. I thought of 27 years of silent dinners, of student loans paid with overtime and ramen, of birthdays marked by flowers but not love. I met Mother's eyes. You left me with nothing. Now you have exactly that. Her shoulders sagged, defeated. Father looked away, jaw tight. Grandpa nodded once to Michael. File the necessary motions. Mother reached across, voice weak. You're my daughter. She's your granddaughter. Grandpa's gaze stayed fixed. Blood does not equal character. She broke down, real tears this time, not for me, but for the empire of lies crumbling around her. I felt the shift, the weight lifting as truth and justice aligned. The papers were final, the evidence complete, and for the first time in years, I held the power to reclaim my life, decisively, quietly, completely. The court proceedings moved swiftly, each day a blur of formalities and paperwork. I sat in the gallery, fingers curled tightly around the edge of the chair, listening as the judge meticulously reviewed the evidence. Every photograph, every receipt, every property deed laid bare the pattern of deception my parents had woven over decades. The room felt heavy, suffused with the quiet authority of the law. Based on the evidence presented, the judge's voice echoed in the chamber. It is determined that the misappropriation of trust funds is incontrovertible. All assets acquired through these transactions shall be returned to the rightful beneficiary. My chest tightened as I heard the words. My life, my stolen future, was finally being acknowledged. Outside the courtroom, the the wheels of legal enforcement began to turn. The Malibu property, the 2 luxury cars, jewelry, and the country club membership, all seized. The bank accounts were frozen and reallocated, every penny routed back into my control. Each transaction felt like reclaiming a piece of myself, a silent but tangible victory over the years of manipulation. I counted the deposits, one by one, heart fluttering with disbelief and relief. This was mine. Everything that had been taken, quietly, methodically, legally, now belonged to me. Father and mother were present at the hearings, their faces masks of shame. Mother's usual composure had crumbled, father's rigid posture faltered under the scrutiny of the court. Every cross-examination, every detail revealed, forced them to confront the consequences they had so long evaded. The judge imposed restitution, fines, and supervised repayment, ensuring they faced the gravity of their actions. The air in the courtroom was tense, a mixture of finality and quiet vindication. I felt an unexpected wave of emptiness mixed with relief as the legal process concluded. The confrontation with reality was complete, and yet a part of me lingered in disbelief. 27 years of subtle neglect, of emotional distance, of financial manipulation, all acknowledged and addressed. Walking out, keys in hand, I stepped into the bright light outside the courthouse, feeling a strange mixture of freedom and responsibility. Back at my apartment in Pacific Heights, Madison waited, takeout boxes spread across the kitchen table. I laid the documents and keys down carefully, letting the weight of ownership settle. "You did it," she whispered, eyes wide. "It's all yours now." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. It wasn't just money. It wasn't just property. It was the reclaiming of my autonomy, the proof that my life could no longer be dictated by those who had betrayed me. Over the following weeks, the process of asset transfer finalized. Each bank account, each deed, each document reaffirmed my control. The apartment in Pacific Heights, my freelance earnings, everything consolidated under my name. The Teslas, the property, even the residual funds from investments flowed back to me legally. Every confirmation, every receipt, was a quiet hammering of closure. Father and mother relocated to a modest roadside motel, stripped of the luxuries they had amassed at my expense. The restitution payments, mandated by the court, reminded them of accountability, of the tangible cost of greed. The contrast between my life and theirs could not have been starker. My apartment, now a home fully under my name, reflected stability, choice, and the autonomy I had fought silently to achieve. Grandpa visited often, offering quiet guidance without interference, allowing me to navigate the responsibilities that came with this restitution. "You've taken back what is yours," he said one evening, voice steady and warm. "And you've done it with clarity." I understood then that justice, though not joyous, carried a weight that was both grounding and transformative. Each morning, I would sit on the balcony with coffee in hand, the city below bustling, yet my world feeling solid and real. Freelance work flowed steadily, referrals from Grandpa's network keeping projects coming. Madison visited regularly, helping unpack boxes, arranging art, making the space ours. "You could buy this entire building now," she joked once, laughter light and airy. "I don't want more things," I replied, "just more peace." Months passed. Ownership of every asset, every account, every title was fully mine. Yet the real sense of settlement came not from money or property, but from reclaiming my life, my choices, and my voice. Looking over the bay from my balcony, I understood that nothing stolen could ever erase the years I had endured, but I could now shape my future fully. The court had restored my possessions, and with them, my autonomy. The lesson, hard-earned and undeniable, was clear. Trust broken could be restored, but only when boundaries were asserted and justice pursued. Settling into my Pacific Heights apartment felt surreal. The space, once just a dream on paper, was now fully mine. Every corner reflected choices I had made and battles I had won. The view of the bay, with fog rolling over the water each morning, reminded me of the distance I had traveled, from uncertainty, betrayal, and financial manipulation, to a place where I could breathe freely. Madison helped unpack boxes, placing art on the walls, arranging books, and laughing as we found the perfect spots for little mementos. Her presence grounded me. Even in moments of silence, her company reminded me that stability was not just about property, it was about connection and trust. Work, too, took on a new rhythm. Freelance projects flowed steadily, referrals from my grandfather's network brought in clients who appreciated my designs and creativity. I was no longer scrambling to pay bills or survive paycheck to paycheck. Each completed project reinforced that I could sustain myself and thrive independently. The apartment became both my studio and sanctuary. Coffee cups, sketches, laptops, and cameras filled the space with life. I often paused, looking out over the city, feeling the rhythm of Seattle below, the hum of people living ordinary lives while I reclaimed mine. One evening, Grandpa came over, carrying a quiet presence that filled the room without effort. He sat across from me at the small dining table, folding his hands. "You've done what I couldn't," he said softly. "You drew the line. You asserted what was yours." His words carried the weight of years I hadn't fully realized, the silent guidance, the sacrifices he made, and the subtle ways he prepared me to claim my future. I nodded, feeling gratitude and resolve coiling in my chest. "I just needed proof," I admitted. "You always had the strength, Evelyn," he replied. "Proof was only to remind you." We talked about the past, the family, and the choices that had shaped my life. Betrayal, I realized, was not always loud or violent. It was the quiet erosion of trust, the theft of opportunity, the subtle message that my worth was measured by obedience rather than self-assertion. Through the conversation, I began to release the lingering resentment, understanding that reclaiming my life meant accepting what had happened without letting it define my future. Grandpa reminded me that blood didn't automatically mean loyalty, and that self-preservation was not selfish but necessary. Nights in the apartment became my sanctuary. The glow from the bay reflected off glass walls, mingling with the soft light of my desk lamp. I sketched, worked on branding projects, and built systems that made my life smoother, more manageable. The keys on the counter gleamed, a tangible symbol of ownership, not just of property, but of choices, actions, and freedom. Madison often stayed late, sharing meals on the floor, like we had in our tiny apartment years ago. We laughed, reminisced, and celebrated the ordinary victories that now felt extraordinary. Months passed. I monitored my accounts, made strategic investments, and maintained the lifestyle that had once seemed impossible. Every morning, coffee in hand, I stood on the balcony, letting the fog settle over the city, feeling grounded in a life I had built from the pieces others had tried to steal. Ownership of assets, titles, and accounts was satisfying, but more than that, I owned my narrative. The years of silent compromise, unpaid loans, and self-denial were now chapters one could close. I could look back without bitterness, knowing that what had been taken was now returned, and what I had built was fully mine. One quiet evening, Grandpa and I sat together, watching the lights flicker across the water. "You've done right," he said, voice steady. "You've faced the past and claimed your future." I breathed deeply, feeling a calm I hadn't known in decades. No anger, no pleading, no fear, just clarity. I understood, fully, that life could be rebuilt, piece by piece, with patience and resolve. As the city hummed below, I realized that new beginnings didn't require fanfare or validation from those who had wronged me. They required courage, persistence, and the willingness to reclaim what was inherently yours. I had done that. I had started over, quietly, deliberately, fully. Looking out at the bay, I didn't see loss anymore. I saw the life I had reconstructed, stronger and truer than ever before. The keys in my hand were proof, not just of property, but of the autonomy and strength I had earned. In the quiet, I whispered to myself, life could always begin again, and this time on my own terms.